Here at Brands Hatch, we have the second weekend of the GT4 European Series, and qualifying is about to get underway. Running a little bit behind schedule here because of the rather mixed weather that we've had, and that in turn has led to incidents aplenty in qualifying and in the support races that we've had over the course of the day. However, we should be in business in the next few seconds for the first part of qualifying. There are two segments to it and one driver per session. You start the race for which you have qualified, so we're about to see the grid decided for race one with those starting drivers having already had, of course, two races at Monza a couple of weekends ago. David Anderson trackside as you look down at the 007 Aston Martin of Jamie van den Balk and Julien Darrat, and as the green flag is waved, the session is underway and everybody now makes their way down the pit road ready to head out onto the circuit. GT4 racing has given us lots of drama over the last few seasons, and it's another very big entry, not quite as big as last year, but it's a more manageable number maybe for the races at Brands Hatch this weekend. We had the same winners, Dan Mackay and Benjamin Lessen, in both Monza races. Are they going to come out on top here? Well, in the second free practice session, which was the more recent guide to pace, you have to go a long way down the order to 12 to find that car, the McLaren 570S. For this session, the car should be in the hands, at least for the first qualifying session, by Benjamin Lessen. Dan Mackay will drive in Q2, and everybody now venturing out onto the circuit. You get an idea of the great variety that we have in GT4. The Porsche through, the Cayman, the new 718 iteration of the Porsche Cayman. Great looking car that. The Audi R8 behind it. Aston Martins are plenty both in GT3 and GT4 trim these days, but in GT4 there are many of them here this weekend. You've got KTM on the grid. There's the BMW M4, although that's got to be badged as the Ecris M4. It's a BMW M4 effectively. You've got Ginetta and Aston Martin I mentioned already, plus Alpine and Mercedes to add to the McLaren as well in this entry. So lots of variety. Now the Ginetta has a question mark over it because the car ended up in the gravel in free practice 2 and brought out a red flag. So we'll wait and see whether the Ginetta goes out. And also the Pierre-Alexandre Jean, and for this session Pierre Sancinena Alpine had an oil leak after it stopped in FP1, and that car I don't think has yet gone out. Number 33, the Bullet Racing Mercedes of Stephen Patrick, that has a 5-place grid drop for the race that he will start. So in other words, this race, this grid, based on getting 3 behavioural warning points at Monza. Up to the timing line then is number 14, the car that won both Monza races, the Equipe Verschure McLaren, in the hands of Benjamin Lessen. And through he goes, the Belgian driver then over the timing line. And very short, sharp sessions. We have just 20 minutes per segment, barring any dramas, of course. But there's a tight curfew at Brands Hatch to fit 2, so the teams, hopefully from the officials' point of view, will not be having any dramas. Lessen comes then out of Druid. He'll be the pioneer in all of this. He will do the target time. Comes down towards Graham Hill Bend. Still got a couple of cars yet to venture out, in fact, but with for free practice 34 of them in total. There's another very, very good grid. So Lessen in sector 1 does the absolute best as he's the first person to get through the speed trap, but then Jamie van den Balk goes even faster within the first sector, and Cedric Freiberghaus gets quicker still. So the time's tumbling as more and more cars go through. We'll pick out some of the others as we go through qualifying, as well as looking at the times. But there you've got the BMW chasing down the hill. One of the cars is entered as an Ecris, others as BMWs, so it's the Ecris car of Ewan Mackay, Dan Mackay's brother, and Ricardo van der Ende, which is the Ecris car, the others BMWs. They all look like BMWs, but one is homologated and entered as an Ecris, the Dutch team. So Lessen makes the climb now towards Sheen Curve out of Dingledell, and the Equipe Verschure car, Franz Verschure, himself a very successful, largely Renault one-mate racer, but then Dutch GT4 competitor, looks on from the pit wall and sees the car do 2 purple sectors. The Audi in the background, you see Cedric Freiberghaus with Nikolai Moller-Madsen, last year's Silver Cup champion. Amazingly, only one Audi in the entry. They're almost wall-to-wall in GT3 this weekend, and just the one in the GT4 class. Over the line then will come Lessen. He will do the target time, and on a damp road with heavy rain during the afternoon, it's a 1:44.8. That's the target, but straight away that car goes quicker, Jamie van den Balk, and then the Audi behind, there it is, goes faster still. Cedric Freiberghaus does a 1:41.591. So Jamie van den Balk in 007, the right number for an Aston Martin, you would argue, goes now downhill and finds himself scooped up a little bit in the traffic because he's got the M4 just there ahead of him. So Jamie van den Belt, second fastest, and he's caught up now behind the BMW. Jamie van den Belt looking good at the moment. Didn't have a lot of luck in the Monza race. I think I'm right in saying the car was damaged in race 1 and missed race 2. So championship-wise, season starts here. Van den Belt shares with Julien Darrat. They're both silver Grady drivers. You see all the cars with the Certina windscreen strip. Certina part of the Swatch Group, as is Blancpain, but this is the watchmaker that adds its name to the GT4 category. And there are watches given to the pole position driver in each class for each race. There's a big spin coming out of Clark Curve at the end of the lap. The car in question has spun into the pit lane, the pit in, and he's now in the throes of rejoining as you see the traffic coming down, and they're heading towards the incident zone. So in a moment, you'll see a car perhaps off to the far side of the road. Van den Belt turns through, and there, look, is the car that's had the spin, blocking the pit-in road. And it gets going now. That I think is the 44 Aston it is of James Holder and Matty George. Jim Holder, James Holder behind the wheel of it. That's the older generation Aston Martin, so it runs in the so-called invitation class because it's the older car. He finds, as you can see, where the wet parts of Paddock Hill Bend are. So James Holder recovers after he's off. We also lost a KTM in the second free practice session, and we are a couple of cars short yet, so I think 1 or 2 still in strive. But Patrick Niederhauser in his KTM is pressing on, and there, number 16, Niederhauser heading up towards the timing line now. 60 was at the end of his first effort. The KTM quivering its way down towards Paddock as he braked hard, but it's Benjamin Lessène still the fastest, 1:41.275 now on his next lap from Freiburg House. And then the hugely experienced Alain Ferté, number 35 in the Alpine, has gone third quickest, so the Alpine going strongly there. Number 4, the Mercedes of Max Kobold, switching from BMWs to Mercedes for this year. Max Kobold, very quick driver, and partnered in that car by Jan Kishiel, so it's a good combination, as we saw in the 2 Monza races. Come here third in the championship within the Silver Cup. So Kobold down towards the left-hander at Sterling's now. So Lessène, Freiburg House, Ferté, and then 4th fastest now, Marius Zug with his BMW. That was another quick car at Monza, shared with Gabriele Piana. They're almost at the halfway point, and it's still Benjamin Lessène the quickest, but Cedric Freiburg House in the Audi on this lap could well be the one to watch, because he's done an absolute best. Yes, he goes quickest, 1:40. Here comes Kobold. And Kobold over the line. What can that be offered up as? 42.070. That means it's third fastest for Kobold. That is the fastest car in the session, the lone Audi. Number 1, Cedric Freiburg House, the Swiss silver graded driver with last year's Silver Cup champion Nikolai Müller-Madsen, who will do Q2. Freiburg House drifts the car nicely through Surtees onto the Grand Prix loop. He's got traffic ahead, more of these McLarens. But Pierre Sonsinena, who is 17th in the Alpine, has just done the absolute best in the first sector, so he's on a mission. Max Kobold has now gone even quicker in Sector 1, and Cedric Freiburg House getting caught up there, look, behind number 11 McLaren. That's Lisette Brahms and Gabi Ulgi. Lisette normally drives with husband Luke, but he is rather under the weather this weekend, so we wish him a speedy recovery. Looking forward to seeing him back on track, and having run a little bit wide there, the McLaren eventually has to cede the place back to the Audi, which also ran wide at the approach to Westfield. So Cedric Freiburg House battles his way through the traffic, as now up to the top of the times for the Pro Sport Performance team goes David Griechner, the Austrian driver, 1:40.259. Pierre Sonsinena goes second in the Alpine, and Simon Knapp goes third now. Simon Knapp with his BMW from the MDM Motorsport team. So here comes Freiburg House, but I don't think this is going to put him back to the top of the times, because he's had that excursion. Comes over the line now. It's a slow lap, as you can see. 4th quickest he will remain. Number 62, Matt Cowley, absolute best in the first sector. Matt Cowley is another of these hidden gems, in a sense. Very, very quick British driver, excelled in club level Formula Ford 1600, won the opportunity to go and race in America in single seaters, did a very, very good job there, has come back to Europe, to put himself back on the radar, but also making the switch into GT cars, which are completely alien to him. Many of the circuits are new as well, but Matt Cowley impressed at Monza, as you might have anticipated, and at the moment he is 9th fastest, but he's just done, as you can see, 2 absolute bests in the sectors, and there's another good lap time coming right up here. So Matt Cowley now comes out of Clark Curve, heading up towards the timing line. The time he's got to beat from Max Kerbold now is a 38.3. Is this going to put Matt Cowley onto pole position? It does indeed. 1:37.067. Matt Cowley goes quickest of all. Great drive, that great lap. So Matt Cowley up to the top of the times, and he shares this car with Will Moore, who was in the wars a little bit at Alton Park in the British GT opener, but another Aston Martin expert. So it's an Aston Martin 1-2-4. Matt Cowley, David Griesner 1 and 2, and then Florian Thomas 4th fastest. The interloper being Max Kerbold, and another interloper, Pierre Sonsinena and Simon Knapp, because as everyone comes over the line, the times are changing all the while, but Kerbold's got himself stuck in a bit of traffic here. Most of the teams trying to get a banker lap in early on, but we are 2 cars missing, one of which is a KTM, which I have a feeling might be 99, the car that was off the road Dominic Albert and Laura Primer in the earlier session. And I think the Ginetta is going to be the other car missing as well after its damage sustained in free practice 2. So Matt Cowley, provisional pole position, and as you can see, he's done another absolute best in sector 1. He's not really being affected by traffic at the moment, so this is looking good. He's a little bit down, only by 19 thousandths though, in the middle sector. A 1:37.067 to beat to try and move the goalpost away. Nicky Leutwiler has gone up to 3rd fastest now, number 21, with the better of the Porsches. Matt Cowley up to the beam, 37.0 to beat, 36.7, a great lap. 1:36.700. Matt Cowley then goes yet faster, pulls away by 0.6 of a second. Konstantin Schürrle, the other Porsche driver, 10th fastest. He's the other driver with a grid drop from the Monza races. Got one driver missing from the Porsche ranks, Nicolas Schürrle, who was very, very quick at Monza, but he's not here. And Glenn van Parijs brought into the team instead. Now, what about Max Kerbold's chances on this lap? David Griesner has just gone fastest, 1:35.622. So he's a second to the good over Matt Cowley. Getting all excited about Matt Cowley's lap. David Griesner bolts one in, a second quicker than anybody else. Here is Max Kerbold, who is now down to 7th. Where will the lap time put him? He's got to be mid-35s, and it won't be that. It will be a slow lap of 36.9. Still good enough for 3rd, but at the moment, the Aston Martin time of David Griesner, 1:35.6, over a second quicker than anybody else. Extraordinary lap. Number 25 is Simon Knapp, he's 4th fastest. We've seen Simon Knapp in GT3 machinery in the early days of Blancpain Endurance Series races, but specialises in GT4 cars, another of the very quick Dutchmen that have always gone well in this. The Dutch GT Championship ran for a time as GT4 only. So Simon Knapp is 4th fastest, he's got to find a 2.5 seconds, and we've had a change because up to 3rd has gone Jean Gloria with his Mercedes. Jean Gloria sharing with Guillaume Dumaret for the Sellerslach racing team. Jean Gloria knows Brands Hatch, certainly Indy circuit from memory, because he did the occasional Carrera Cup GB race going back a few seasons. And Simon Knapp, bucket and spade job, he's way, way wide at Clark Curve, and he's just avoided the barriers. Scrabbling his way through. There's another car off as well, because behind Simon Knapp there's another one that's just had to dig itself out of the gravel. And I'll tell you who that was as well in a moment as it goes over the line. So Simon Knapp was off the road, and the other car was the sister one of Koen Bogart. So both of the MDM Motorsport BMWs off the road. And is all of this because the weather is changing again? It doesn't look like it's raining yet, but it's in the post. So 4 minutes of Q1 still to go. Pierre Sonsinena heads down the hill. And this now is the fastest car in the session, the Alpine, which was so quick in the International Challenge in Bahrain at the end of last year. 1:34.797 now. And Max Kerbold goes to the top. So we're looking at Solsinena, who needs to fight back, but Max Kermon's yellow peril, the Mercedes, up to the top of the times, 1:34.797, as Pierre Solsinena turns his way now up through the right-hander of Hawthorns on this greasy road that is drying, hence all these improvements, and we should get more in the second session. We've had a lap time deleted for the Lucky Trefts Lippert Mercedes for track limits. So 3 minutes to go, and David Griesner back to the top of the times, 1:34.206. Then he's beaten by Florian Thoma, his teammate. So the two Pro Sport performers, Aston Martins, separated by 0.118 of a second now. Thoma from Griesner, Max Kermond is down a third. Minder Van Buren Jr. is fourth, and Pierre Solsinena fifth at the start of the lap and fifth at the end of it as well. That was a 1:35.102, stays fifth. Sixth now is Guillaume Romain. Seventh is Nicky Leutwiler. Eighth is Marius Zug. Ninth quickest is Jan Reining, and 10th is Paolo Meloni. So it's Aston, Mercedes, Alpine, Porsche, BMW, Mercedes, BMW at the top 10. Matt Cowley down to 11th now as others have got quicker. So for Pro Speed, Florian Thoma is topping the times. Goes now up through Hawthorn, through the traffic. First time he's raced here as well, Florian Thoma, so doing an exceptionally good job up at the pointy end by 0.118 of a second from David Griesner, the sister car. So there, the Aston Martin up towards Sterling's through the left in a moment. And with a minute change on the clock, we've got an absolute best in sector one out of Pierre Solsinena here. So Solsinena is on a mission. Is he going to be able to improve? The time he's got to beat of this man, Florian Thoma, is a 1:34.088. It looks increasingly 24 hours of spa-like with the weather as he comes onto the pit straight and getting gloomier again. We're just past 6 o'clock local time, so even allowing for the weather, the light's going. There is Pierre Solsinena. Absolute best, personal best, and a 1:34.088 to beat, and it is not good enough. It puts him fifth. Seems to be that last sector where he loses out. Now maybe that's where it's greasier. Maybe that's where the Alpine doesn't have the legs. It's good through the twiddly bits, but not quite so good in the fast straight, turn right, fast run up towards the timing line section where you need a bit of poke. We'll see. Solsinena fifth then. So Florian Thoma is still the fastest. 007 Jamie van den Balk is down in 15th. He was quick at the start of the session, but 15th at the moment. You see how wet it is offline there. Jamie van den Balk up now through Clark Curve, heading towards the line. And he's on the power and comes through. Wipers on now for some people, so maybe the rain is back in the air. It isn't, I don't think, raining on this side of the circuit yet, but can't be far off. Tiptoeing their way through paddock. Mercedes, Porsche, Aston Martin, three great sports car brands all running together. The Mercedes is the Bullet racing car, I think I'm running, saying Stephen Patrick. Up the inside in 21 there goes the Cayman, that is Nicky Leutwiler, McLaren driver last year and the AM Cup champion. He's going wide at Graham Hill Bend, but he gathers it all up again. Nicky Leutwiler, who goes back into the early 80s with a career stretching a long, long time. Checkered flag wave, then the session has an end. And Nicky Leutwiler, 8th fastest come the end. So the checkered flag waved, everybody will head to the pit lane, do a driver shuffle, get back out again in Q2. And Florian Thoma remains the fastest. He went quicker again at the very end on a 1:33.752. So Florian Thoma tops the times in good style. So, as you see, Nicky Leutwiler and Jamie van den Balk coming back into view. Van den Balk 22nd now. Cedric Freiberg has a bit of a curiosity because he was quick to begin with. He's down in 20th. We'll go through the order in due course, but it's partly, I suspect, the road drying out. But almost as everybody has gone over the line, the order has changed. Nicky Leutwiler coming through. Goes for the pit lane to give the team more time to get Benjamin Mazetis behind the wheel. Some still take the flag, others bail. There's the sister Cayman. That's the car that had Konstantin Schürrle at the wheel, so 13th he is, plus 5 the grid drop. Philippe Baker across the line, and that car is given over to Marc Maseng, the former GT1 world champion for Q2. Nürburgring 24-hour winner. Philippe Baker came out of German club racing, but improving all the time with the tutelage of Marc Maseng. And so Florian Thomas hops out of number 18, and it will be Akhil Rabindra, who's raced here in the past in things like the MSV Run Formula 4 Championship. He will take over that car. So he does know Brands Hatch, but if Florian Thomas can do that without having raced here before, good effort, very good effort. So 3 different drivers doing the 3 absolute best in the sectors in that session. And Florian Thomas for Pro Sport Performance tops the times. The Equipe Verschoor McLaren of Benjamin Vasseur second quickest, Max Koval's Mercedes third, ahead of David Griesner. Then the best of the KTM's Patrick Niederhauser, 5th fastest. 6th, Lucky Treffs, ahead of Pierre Sonsinena. Then Nicky Leutwiler, Matt Cowley 9th in the end, and Minder Van Buren Jr. 10th fastest in the Mercedes. He shares with Bas Schrouten. KTM 11th, that's the Mads Siljehaug Phil Hill car, with Mads Siljehaug doing a time better than Simon Canat, then Konstantin Schürrle plus a grid drop, Guillaume Romain and Koen Bogart. 16th fastest, Jan Reining, ahead of Ewan Mackay, Alain Ferte, Tourist Trophy winner at Silverstone back in 1988. After that, Mario Sug, Cedric Freiberghaus to round out the top 20, and you go all the way down and you see names that at one point were well up and then fell back. Stephen Patrick 26th, but he will get the grid drop from Monza. Lisette Brahms 28th, James Holder 29th after his spin, and they're the 2 that didn't venture out. Number 15, Ginetta, and 99, the KTM that was in the gravel with Dominic Albert and Laura Kreihammer from earlier on. So 2 cars missing, and they will miss the second part as well. But Florian Thomas is a very happy man. Handshakes all round. And points to his sponsor. But Florian Thomas, again, illustrating another aspect of GT4 racing, that it's very much now for the young guns. Perhaps initially it was for the amateurs or the privateers to go racing. And yes, there is the AM Cup and the Pro-Am division, but the Silver Cup to bring on the young generation of drivers has been a big success. And you've got people that come straight into this championship now from karting even. Certainly moved on from the early days of the likes of Guido Kennis and Michael de Keersmacher, for example, and modest grids, but SRO have stuck with the GT4 concept, knowing it would come good, and it has since manufacturers got involved rather than tuners. So as soon as the likes of Aston Martin, Audi, Mercedes in that shop, for example, started building turnkey cars for the customers, it's moved the whole game on. And Alpine joining in, another illustration of a brand with a motorsport heritage going back to the 1960s and rallying. Grégoire de Moustier now takes over number 35 from Alain Ferte. Grégoire de Moustier, you can think back to GT1 days with the Hexis McLaren. He's been off in World Rallycross as well as the World Touring Car Championship of late. Number 16, KTM. Reinhard Koffler takes over now from Patrick Niederhauser. Last word with the team. The Manfilter Mercedes good to go there as well. There's one car that just took the checkered flag twice, number 62. That was Matt Cowley, but the stewards are going to smile upon him, I understand. Right, we're in business, 18 minutes, and everybody now goes venturing out onto the circuit. If they've got the tyres on, that's another reason not to do your last lap, because it gives you another minute and a half or so to get the cars into the pit lane, and a bit more work can be done so you don't miss the pit opening like now. So it's more than just a quick driver change. Number 12, BMW, is good to go as well, with Ibrahim Okyay at the wheel for this session. So out they pour. All these drivers new to the track now for this session, so exploring what the track conditions are like. When they were in the free practice period, it was dry, largely, so we did get a bit of rain, but they will all have had dry running. Now they've got to acquaint themselves with the wet road. You've got the Bullet Racing Mercedes, Andy Merrick at the wheel of it, the man that runs the British Racing Drivers Club's Superstars programme, nurturing young talent, and it's important, therefore, that Andy does remind them that he's a very quick driver, so expect him to be going well in this. Bullet Racing, so named because Stephen Patrick, whose team it is, just loves the Steve McQueen movie. The legendary Dave Price team manager par excellence. He oversees all this, and it's a jolly camp, but Stephen Patrick still learning, still developing as a driver, with a lot of help from Andy Merrick, who of course has finished 4th at Le Mans. He's been a manufacturer of GT3 Bentley driver, amongst other things. Started off in single seaters himself, Formula Ford, and Formula 3 he got to. Second generation racer. His father Peter Merrick raced in the 80s, and then went on, built up a business, had a family, came back into racing in historics, bought lots of cars, went racing regularly, and then stopped again. And I think I'm right in saying took up photography and thrown his heart and soul into that. But Andy still goes racing with great effect. So the car's then up towards the timing line. Gabriele Piana in the BMW goes by. Into Paddock Hill Bend he goes. Bit of a wobble up the curb, but Piana, who is Italian but lives near the Nordschleife, so he's very much a VLN and therefore you could argue bad weather expert. He should be adept in these conditions, because if you hustle on around the Nordschleife, where anything can happen, as was proved a few weeks ago with the snow, then you can do great things on a greasy Brands hatch. Gabriele Piana, who was in GT4 and the GT3 Blancpain race at Monza, heads up towards Surtees, where ahead of him the reigning Silver Cup champion Nikolai Moller-Madsen has a bit of a wobble, and Piana will pick him off in the BMW. That car, the RN Vision STS car, Marius Zug drove in Q1, and Piana has done the absolute best in the first sector. Gabriele Piana out of the right-hander of Westfield, makes the climb now up through Sheen Curve into Stirlings. And this will be the benchmark lap. As you can see, 2 absolute bests. Now, that is largely because he's the first person to get to the timing beams in a hurry, rather than being quicker than anybody else, because he's on the money straight away. We've got nothing really to compare this with, other than the traffic behind, but Piana is looking good. The other driver that's in a hurry is Andy Merrick, who's putting his experience to good effect. He's now gone better than anybody in Sector 1. So Piana's time is 35.338. Remember, we got them down to the high 33s in Q1. It's going to be a red flag because there's another KTM off the road, and that I think is up at Druids, and it's Phil Hill, the German driver, that's off the road. Red flag. So the problem here is there's a curfew in 17 minutes, and we've got 14 minutes of session to go, so I'm not quite sure how much of qualifying they're going to get in before the curfew strikes. It's going to be very, very touch and go, this. 6:30, I think I'm right in saying, is the curfew, so we'll see how they fare. But that car is off the road. So Phil Hill's car will need to be retrieved, the barrier will need to be sorted. This is going to be, I would have thought, 10 minutes or so. And not everybody has done a time. But 10 minutes will take you to 24, and that's being optimistic. There's going to be precious little running, I fear, before the curfew here. So, just pondering what would happen if you can't run the qualifying session before the curfew. Do you go back to free practice 2 times, or do you try and crowbar 15 minutes of running in the morning? Or, ... Might be able to trace a driver's lap time out of free practice, but of course they weren't going for a qualifying time then. Not everybody has done a lap even, so that's the frustration here. But the replay of it all going wrong for Phil Hill coming up towards Druids, real old tank slapper, one way, then t'other, and then boom. And that's actually quite a hard hit, isn't it? Hits the tyres like that. There wasn't much slowing down, so Phil Hill off the road. But we've got then, as I say, 14 minutes to go, and effectively 15 minutes of the circuit being live. And quite often it's a checkered flag at 18:28 here, so that engines are off by 18:30 for the local laws. So in real terms, you've got less time left than you need, even if you could go green now. So we shall ponder what happens and what that will do to the grid. There might be a plan B in race control being worked on even now, but the first race for these cars is tomorrow morning at 10:20, so they can't really have a qualifying session and then go straight into the race. So they'll be determined to try and get at least one lap in here, but it is not necessarily a given that they're going to get much running in, if any. So back into the pit lane come those that can, and as soon as possible the session will be back underway. So fastest, and we had only got 6 lap times in before the stoppage. Gabriele Piana from number 17 of Clermont Seyler in the street art racing Aston. Third, Max or Massimiliano Tresoldi with his BMW. Benjamin Mazatis, fourth fastest. Benjamin Mazatis with the Porsche Cayman of Nicky Leutwiler. Fifth fastest, Julien Darrat, Aston Martin, and sixth fastest, Guillaume Dumarre, Mercedes. So there is Gabriele Piana's car, good to go, and he will do his level best to maintain that, depending on how much track time we have got left. But I reckon it's 12 minutes before we would need engines to be stopped, and 14 minutes of session to go. So I'm looking at lots of circuit vehicles fleeing the scene. Phil Hill's car is almost from the gravel back behind the barriers up at Druid, so as long as the Recticel barrier is in a safe place. There is Phil Hill himself, so he's okay, a bit embarrassed, but the German driver, named after the American Formula 1 world champion, the late Phil Hill, trudges back and makes his way down to the team, goes to face the music in the pit lane, in the paddock rather. Right, so the track is just about clear, yes, so we can go any moment, I would have thought. And who is it going to be that comes out on top? Gabriele Piana. Then we've got effectively 10 minutes of running now. It'll be time for 3 or 4 laps if they get on with it. So the last of the circuit vehicles is in. There's Phil Hill's car out of harm's way, and oddly there is no time yet offered for the restart. Normally they say restart on short notice or estimated restart time of, but we haven't got to that yet. So slightly puzzled as to why. Hopefully there'll be a green flag imminent. It might be that they're just doing this over the radio from the race director to the teams, but they're all lined up ready to go in the pit apron. They've not gone to queue at the end of the pit lane, but now I'm perplexed as to why the cars haven't moved. They have now. Green flag is now waved, so we're in business. Everybody pulls out with 14 minutes on the clock and 12 minutes before the curfew. 10 minutes before you need to turn your engine on or put the flag out. So out they go. It's going to be an early checkered flag, I think, for the end of the session. So there you see the variety that you have on track. Alpines pour out, BMW behind. Then you've got another Alpine, more BMWs, Aston Martins, got McLaren waiting, KTM. KTMs are rather being whittled away as the day has gone on, and now late evening sunshine comes out and the track looking a lot drier than it has for about an hour or so. Still damp in patches, and that's what caught out Phil Hill right at the very start of that session. So Gabriele Piana is the fastest. Now what about the car of Florian Thoma and Akko Rabindra? We haven't got a lap time after it yet, but that was the car that was fastest in the first qualifying session. Can it do the same here? The two Allied Racing Porsche Caymans, or Cayman, have got themselves together. The 718 GT4 Club Sport. And up through Dingledale goes the man filter back to Mercedes there, looking to try to squeeze through the traffic. That car of now Marcus Pavarud. Got one car being investigated for overtaking under a red flag. That would be David Loge with his Alpine, who is being, as I say, looked at for his conduct. So the stewards will investigate at the end of the session. And in the meantime, we are now on to a flying lap, and it's Gabriele Piana, who again in greasy conditions at Monza was impressive, that runs very wide out of paddock, but being pursued there by Dan Mackay, double winner at Monza. So number 14 McLaren comes up through Druids. heads towards Graham Hill Bend, and then now on to Cooper Straight. So Dan Mackay bought himself a bit of clear track space here. He's got the sun to contend with in his eyes at places, as well as the damp patches on the road. It's a real test, the track at the moment. And we've got still 11.5 minutes to go, and 10 minutes before the curfew. So Dan Mackay for Equipe Verschure, blasts on. Up now through Hawthorne. And we've got an absolute best in the first sector by Pierre-Alexandre Jean, the Renault technician, very quick racing driver as well. So Pierre-Alexandre Jean, number 36 Alpine, fastest in sector 1 as you look at Dan Mackay with a personal best coming up towards Sterling's. That was a part of the circuit that caught out one of the star GT3 drivers earlier on. Actually, the GT4 teams have been pretty wary of the curve, and we've not had too much drama out of them. It's been other places where GT4 cars have fallen off the road. It was at Hawthorne's in one of the races last year. We had a fair old accident, but thankfully everyone was okay. Dan Mackay comes over the timing line then, and his first proper flying lap will put him second fastest then. That's a 1:34.084, so it gets them up to the front of the grid, or near the front of the grid, on that front row provisionally. Jan Kishiel has gone third. Fourth fastest now, number 22 of Blancpain Paris. Marc Boussaint goes second ahead of Moller Madsen and Mackay, so it's Piana, then Pierre-Alexandre Jean goes up to second fastest. Boussaint third, Moller Madsen, Sohail Ayari, another hugely experienced driver, Le Mans veteran. He is next, Damien Loger goes ahead of him, so every car again comes through, shuffles the order. But if you're a team thinking you're going to leave this to the very end and put a good lap in, I wouldn't risk it given the curfew here, and it would not be a surprise if the flag didn't come out in about 6 minutes time. Ignore what's on the top of the screen, that's the session time remaining, but in terms of a curfew at this circuit, you might not be able to get that in, so I think the flag will be out earlier. And more cars pour out of Graham Hill Bend, including their 7th quickest Andy Merrick in the Bullet Racing Merc. Up towards Surtees he goes. He's got cars fore and aft, which he needs to be mindful of, including Matt George, very quick Brit ahead of him in the invitation class, older generation. Aston Martin, run by James Appleby's team. The AMR Super Racing squad, Generation AMR Super Racing. We've got a lap time being deleted from Marcus Pavarud, so that will drop him down again, way down to 22nd fastest. Akhil Rabindra has just gone 4th in the car that's on pole for race 1, provisional pole for race 1. So Akhil Rabindra looking quite impressive in that, doing a good job. And what have we got left on the clock? 8 minutes 40, 7 minutes or less than 7 minutes to the curfew. So Andy Merrick down towards clearways. Nikolai Moller Madsen goes quickest. Moller Madsen a 1:32, 1:22, and then Akhil Rabindra faster than anyone, 1:32.095, Akhil Rabindra. So good lap posted then by Akhil. And the car that's fastest now in both sessions. So the Indian driver to the top, 35 turning through, is Grégoire de Moustier, who, in terms of his experience and the level at which he's raced, he should be a lot higher up than 27th. Maybe this is the lap on which it will come. 2 personal bests then, 28th in fact now, because others have gone quicker ahead of him. So 31 time is being posted in this session. De Moustier now up towards the timing line. He's got the road to himself. So Grégoire de Moustier, 28th he was, and 21st he is. That's not actually much of an improvement. I thought he would have been a lot better than that, but Grégoire de Moustier not being able to get the most out of the Alpine. Dan Mackay has done an absolute best in sector 1 in the McLaren number 14. The Alpine's a great looking car, and inevitably with GT4 some cars are better suited to some circuits than others, but that car struggling at the moment. Andy Merrick's up to 6th, Reinhard Koffler up to 2nd, and another big off, and that's going to stop the session again. That will be the end of the day. Jeremy Sahi has gone off quite heavily in the Pro Sports Aston. That's Hawthorne's, isn't it, at the end of that long fast straight? No, Sterling's, apologies. So he's gone off, spun, and the red flag is out. That surely will be the end of the session, because it will take you past the curfew to get the car back out. But Jeremy Sahi, number 19, so he's off. 2 red flags in the session, Phil Hill being the other one. But by the time that car's been retrieved, we'll have got to the end of the day. So no restart, it's confirmed on the timing screen, no restart. and frustration. But again, a jumbled grid, which you could argue is a good thing. But that means that Dan Mackay, who had just gone quickest on a 1:31.822, starts from provisional pole position ahead of Jan Kisiel, Marc Bosseng and Akhil Rabindra. So, for the officials' point of view, yet more work. And it'd be interesting to know how the car got there, having either gone straight into the barriers and then bouncing out to have the half spin, or whether it had the spin on the way into the barriers. But either way, red flag yet again. And because of the curfew that we have, no restart, so big frustration. So Dan Mackay the fastest by 0.111 of a second, and just to prove how competitive GT4 is, the second placed time equal by two drivers, Jan Kisiel and Marc Bosseng, to the 1,000th of a second, equal times, 1:31.933, both of them. And that's between a brace of Mercedes, so you can certainly say the Mercedes were evenly matched. Akhil Rabindra fourth quickest ahead of Reinhard Koffler, and then Nikolai Moller-Madsen. Marcus Paverud will go from 7th, 8th quickest Julien Darras, 9th Ricardo van der Ende, and 10th in the end Andy Merrick. So no restart to the session because of the Brands Hatch curfew. And there is out of the car Jeremy Sahi, and the medical team just make sure he's okay. But with the car needing to be retrieved and barrier damage, that's going to be a long job anyway, irrespective of the curfew. So everybody heads not to the pit lane, but to the paddock. This is how he got there. So it's a wheel on the grass coming into the corner. And it's not Sahi, it's Sohail Ayari. Apologies, we got the wrong graphic to begin with. So Sohail Ayari is his that goes off and spins the car around into the barrier. So the fact that it's an experienced driver like Sohail, you could argue, is even more strange, because Sohail Ayari has been around the block a fair few times, but just putting a wheel on the damp grass enough to lose all the traction. Around he goes. So Sohail Ayari off the circuit, and Ayari 19th. So this is how we look at the end of Q2, with the fastest time being done by Dan Mackay in the McLaren, and second fastest Jan Kisiel's Mercedes. Third, Marc Bosseng ahead of Akhil Rabindra in the car that is on pole for race one. So a first and a fourth, illustrating how competitive that's going to be. Fifth, Reinhard Koffler from Nikolai Müller-Madsen, Marcus Paverud, Julien Darras, Ricardo van der Ende and Andy Merrick to round out the top 10. Gabriele Piano dropped to 11th ahead of Jeremy Sari. Apologies for the wrong graphic saying it was him that had the off. He's 12th ahead of Pierre-Alexandre Jean, Will Moore and Dominic Schrammel. But Glenn Van Parijs is 16th ahead of Marc van der Aert and David Loge. Now we know it's Sohail Ayari off the road, and he's 19th ahead of Bas Schouten, Benjamin Mazatis and Guillaume Dumoulin. Ivan Lukasiewicz, 23rd from Gregoire de Moustier. 25th is where you find number 17 of Clement Sele, ahead of Tom Wood, Massimiliano Trisoldi. Alec Udell, the American who was really good at Monza, is only 28th, racing here for the first time ahead of Ibrahim Okiai. Matt George 30th, and then to round out the times, Gabi Ulyi, with Phil Hill not doing a time, Lucas Ibanez not coming out, nor Laura Kreihammer. We've got a number of cars under investigation for a best lap time being done under red flags, but let's have a look at the highlights of another eventful session here at Brands Hatch. Cars venturing out onto the circuit on a damp, greasy circuit for Q1, which eventually dried and enabled lap times to be improved. But certainly to begin with, great action from almost everybody being sideways. And Nikolai Müller-Madsen's car with Cedric Freiberghaus at the wheel for Q1, doing a good time initially, but then rather lost momentum, and others were able to outdrag him. It dropped down to 20th fastest come the end of the session. The first element of qualifying topped by the number 18 Aston Martin. We had Simon Canat rally crossing his way through the gravel, and he was able to get back on track. Others also finding themselves in the wars, like Jan Kisiel then, who was way wide. But that's the car that was on pole for race one, thanks to the efforts of a delighted Florian Thomas, and Akhil Rabindra puts the car on to fourth fastest time for race two. Phil Hill into the barriers in Q2, early red flag, another one with Sohail Ayari being off the road. So we've got two jumbled grids for the GT4 European Series races at Brands Hatch tomorrow. Race one coming up at 10:20 as you see Sohail Ayari's car going off again. For now, from qualifying from David Addison, it's goodbye.